Welcome back to the channel. My name is Ryan, and today we are discussing Joe Lunardi's Bracketology. If you don't know what that is, Joe Lunardi is the main guy who, throughout college basketball, will discuss who will make the NCAA tournament, and most majority of the time, he gets the teams end up being in. So it's a good idea. It's a good thing to look at just to see who would make the tournament. So today we are reviewing what he has. This was published actually about 13 hours ago, not long ago at all. We're in March officially, so March Madness is in the making. So a lot of stuff has been building up to it. We've had a lot of crazy games happen. We've had Oklahoma win at Oklahoma State off a buzzer beater. We had Ohio State just a couple hours later do the same thing in Michigan State. And then, Nevada went off a half-court game winner and many other stuff. Reed Shepherd's game winner against Mississippi State, and a lot of stuff like that. A lot of craziness is going on, but let's discuss some of the things just in the tournament-wise. Because if you haven't looked at it, we're going to review pretty much a lot of it. Okay, so the teams that are on the bubble right now, the last 4 byes, that means teams that are in, they've solidified a spot within the tournament. They don't have to play their way in or anything like that. FAU, yes, easily they're in the tournament. They made the Final Four last year and were about one shot away from making the national title game, which they could have won. Then you have Nevada, I just mentioned that, had the game-winning shot recently. Wake Forest, big win against Duke. There's been some controversy over the court storming, but that does not take away from an incredible accomplishment that they had. The sold-out crowd winning against a top 10 Duke team, that was very well done. And Wake Forest, they have battled the entire game. It was within 6 points. No one had more of a 6-point lead. Duke didn't have a 6-point lead. Did have more than that. Neither did Wake Forest. So they can win close games like that if they have to. And then Virginia, talking about a team that does not have any offense, but their defense has been pretty good. But that's been the problem in the tournament, is that whenever they don't play good defense consistently, they lose to bad teams. They lost to Ohio as a 13th seed. They lost to Furman last year off a game-winning shot. They lost to UMBC, the 16th seed, because they couldn't find any offense. It wasn't like UMBC scored a crazy amount of points. They scored 74. Kentucky scored 117. So, you can score that level. Last 4 in, New Mexico. Okay. Don't know much about them, to be honest. Gonzaga's look pretty good. They're officially ranked now, so that might change being one of the last few in. It's kind of weird saying last few in team. Last 4 in team be a ranked team. That's kind of weird, but yeah. Seton Hall and then Providence. Providence had a very bad loss to Marquette. So they were down by 30 at one point in the first half. That was bad. First 4 out has Villanova. Interesting. They've not made the tournament since Jay Wright has been gone, which was only he left 2 years ago. Or he retired 2 years ago. So we'll see if they can make it this year. Utah, not too much of them. Colorado, they've had some good performances at the Pac-12. Just not really winning any big games. St. John's, Rick Pitino called their team trash and said it was one of the most. What was the specific word he had? It was something like, this was one of the most unenjoyable experiences I've ever had in my life coaching this team. Yeah, they're not making it. And then you have Texas A&M the next 4 out. Texas A&M, Iowa, Ole Miss, and then Kansas State. Kind of surprised Ole Miss is not up there. They had a great start to the year, 13-0, and they've kind of just faded out a bit. But let's look at some of the higher seeds and some people that sometimes you have to really worry about when it comes to selecting them to go past 2 rounds even. That I would personally stay away from. Purdue. I don't trust Purdue at all. At all to the size. But here's the ball, by the way. This ball I usually hold sometimes. I usually hold, actually. Purdue. What's my problem with Purdue? Same thing with kind of Virginia, but at least Virginia has won a title before. Purdue, last losses in the tournament were 12th ranked North Texas by 9 points. Lost to St. Peter's by 3 points. It was a 15 seed. I know they made it to I know they eventually made it to the Elite Eight, but it was a bad loss still. Because it's a 15 seed, and you had Jaden Ivey on your team, and I think Zach Edey too. And then you lost to FDU last year, who scored like 55 points, who had an average height on their team being 6'1". That is awful. They lose to double-digit seeds repeatedly, and guess who's possibly in the side up here that they have to face? It'd be Eastern Kentucky or Norfolk State. It looks like here. If none of those trigger like anything in your mind, Norfolk State was a team that upset a number 2 Missouri not too long last decade with Kyle O'Quinn on that team. Yeah, shout out to Kyle O'Quinn. But I wouldn't trust that, and even to get past that round, Colorado State, Oklahoma is the team they'd play off of here, and Oklahoma's looked pretty good. And then Colorado State's been iffy, but they have some good stuff offensively. So, yeah. Another team I would not trust is Kansas right now. Kansas has not played their best basketball recently at all. They've lost to BYU. They've had very bad road losses like the Texas Tech. They got blown out by them. Bill Self got ejected from that game. And this team's just not playing as well as they used to right now. If maybe they change around whenever they play Houston, again at Houston, and if they win that game at Houston, that would change my opinion on a lot of things. But right now, they do not look as impressive as they usually have. And I would worry about that. They're playing a Cornell team. I remember Cornell being in a tournament before. But it's not really worrying about them. It's worrying about who you'd play next. If we're just going based off the higher seed, it'd be the 6th seed for this team from this side of the bracket. It'd be South Carolina. South Carolina's a really freaking good team. They know how to play basketball to a very high level. They've been in a tad bit of a slump recently, but I bet they can get out of that by time that the tournament starts. I wouldn't be surprised if South Carolina makes a run in the SEC tournament, though. I really wouldn't. This team's really good, and they could put Kansas on upset alert very early on in the tournament. Team I would question, Marquette. Shaka Smart, great coach, really is. Struggled in the tournament. He has struggled against when he was at Texas. He has struggled a bit against Marquette. Remember they had I'm pretty sure they lost to Michigan State last time. If I believe that to be right. It's if you have to play like a very experienced coach, you might have problems. But only thing that's on their good side is on this side of the bracket, they wouldn't have to face a team that's experienced in the NCAA tournament. Like Wake Forest hasn't made it in 8 years, and it'd be Wake Forest versus Boise State, and Boise State, for sure, has not made it recently. And Oakland, you should beat Oakland easily. So stuff like that. Arizona is the 1 seed for the West side. My bad. The Midwest was the Purdue. Then the West is Arizona. My opinion about Arizona, Caleb Love, he has shown, as a North Carolina fan, I have mixed opinions about him. He helped us beat Duke in the last game Coach K coached, which was great. Great way to go out on. But he went like 5 for 20 in the national title game. So, yeah, very inconsistent at some levels, but they have good paint presence. They have a lot of good guys in their team. And they have an easier side of the bracket if this holds. Again, if this holds, but they possibly would have to play TCU. And if you don't remember before, TCU almost knocked them out of the tournament last time Arizona was a 1 seed. But also last year, Arizona did lose in the first round to Pepperdine. So remember that too. Might have just been last year. Last year might have just been a crazy, crazy year. But you got to remember that stuff. You got to really remember that. Team you have to look out for. This is a make or break type of team. Iowa State. Either they're going Final Four or out in the first round type of team. And maybe not first round, but first 2 rounds you could see. Because you have Eastern Washington. East Washington, you should be able to win that. Iowa State's been great at home this year. They've been like 17-0. That's perfect. That's unbelievable. That's best in the country. But they've did a mid-level road type of experience, so 50-50 on the road. And then they would probably end up having to play Virginia. Virginia sometimes, if they can get past the first round, would have a really good defense. And Iowa State's Iowa State's also really good at defense. And if Iowa State's missing their shots that day, they are going to have some problems. It's going to be a close game late. I'm not saying I would trust Virginia in a close game late, but you never want to be in that situation against an experienced team in the tournament. UConn, that's the team you might probably would trust the most. They won the national title game. They kicked everyone's butt throughout the tournament. They look good. They just really bad on road games against ranked teams. They've lost like 18 in a row. But good thing for them. These aren't road games. These are neutral site games. Very, very strange team here. Kentucky, a 4 seed at the time. Oh my gosh, if you really want to risk it for the biscuit, bet on Kentucky. Bet on Kentucky. This team is pretty much bipolar. This team is up and then down and then up again, really high, like 117 points high, and then back to the 70s. Like, what? You beat, like, just the day before you lost to LSU, you scored in the 70s. But the week before, you held Auburn at Auburn to like under 65 points, which is incredible for them because Auburn's great at home. And then after your bad loss to LSU, you go out and you beat the crap out of Alabama when you had you scored over 50 points in both the first half and the second half. I've never seen that before from any SEC game, let alone against another top 15 team. So, does this side of the bracket favor out for them? For the first 2 rounds, it does. That's going to have to worry about. First 2 rounds, whatever happens just happens. A lot of crazy stuff happens, but first 2 rounds, they'd be playing Vermont. That's a favorable matchup. And then you have Washington State or Appalachian State. I would doubt Appalachian. I think Washington State will win that game. So, yeah. Team that you got to think about a lot. A team I would trust around this area, Baylor. Baylor's good. They made a national title game not too long ago. They won the national title game not too long ago, actually. They were more dominant in the national title run than UConn was. Look at the teams that they face. Look at the scores. And just watch the games. But Baylor's had a lot of experience. They give Houston really good matchups. They've had a lot of good games with Kansas, all that. And so they're battle tested completely. And you're not like it's not like you're getting a tough area right now. You're getting High Point. And then the winner versus St. Mary's and Indiana State. That is a very favorable matchup. And then the best team you'd be possibly getting out of the Charlotte area here, would be North Carolina. Which I hope North Carolina can get that point. Then you have a battle between them. Remember, about 2 years ago, that matchup went to overtime whenever they played. So these teams Baylor's a really, really good team. I trust them in the tournament. If this is one of those teams that you could possibly see upsetting North Carolina, if North Carolina can get there. But remember, Florida Atlantic and Florida play on that same set that North Carolina's on. So you have to watch out for that. Yeah. If this holds up. If this is the exact same thing what the tournament is, that's what I'm looking at. This is the closest we're probably going to get. But yeah, Florida and Florida Atlantic will be a game that a lot of people will want to watch. And I'll be one of those people wanting to watch this game. This game should be one of the better games of the first round if that ends up holding up. Houston, I trust them getting out of the first 2 rounds. I really do trust them getting out of the first 2 rounds. Outside of that, not much. Not much at all. By the way, the side we just discussed was the east side. Now we're discussing the South. So, yeah. Houston, I don't trust after the first 2 rounds, but we're talking about the first 2 rounds right here. You can get out of that. You have your favorable sides, usually higher seeds. Only problem is you might end up having to play in Mississippi State. Mississippi State's been good. Good defensively. It's a tough game. You have to go physical. You have to go right at them. This team's not going to just beat you with 3-point shooting all the time. They can score real well at times, but this is a tough team. You got to go right at them, all of that. It's something Houston can do, but you got to do it. And sometimes in tournament, you might think, hey, this team's like 19-10 on the year. We're coming to this game like 26-4. We've won our conference championship game. We just whooped the crap out of our 16th seed. We should win this one. And then this team in the first half hits you hard, and you're down by 8 or 10 points heading into the second half. And it's like, what just happened? But also the other team you'd probably have to face is Nebraska. That'd be led by Fred Hoiberg. The coach, Nebraska looks solid. Remember, they did beat a number 6th ranked Wisconsin. So, watch out for that. They are pretty good. Any other team that kind of stands out? Duke. Hopefully Kyle Filipowski is fine. He should be fine for that time. We'll see how he plays fully whenever they play North Carolina next week. Because that aggressiveness he will play in that game will carry on into the tournament. Duke, there's not really much to say about them that is not already known. this team's usually good in the tournament. This is. They have a good team. You have Jeremy Proctor. You have Jeremy Roach, not Jeremy Proctor. Jeremy Roach. You have Kyle Filipowski. You have Mark Mitchell. You have Proctor. There's kind of Proctor. But you have them. And they're really good. They're really good at scoring very efficiently. They beat the teams that they should. That's what I'm not worried about. I'm worried about the mid-level teams, like they lost to Tennessee last year. That's a good defensive team. The year before that, they lost to North Carolina, but that was in the Final Four. They made it really far that time. But other years, they've lost to teams like Michigan State. These are teams that are very well-coached defensive teams that are going to make you work for every single basket you get. And that Duke team that lost Michigan State had Zion, RJ Barrett, and Cam Reddish, and Trey Jones. So that was a really, really good team. So if they face one of those really experienced teams, the coaches, you have to watch out for that. And that would lead them to probably end up playing Houston for them to find that. So yeah. Creighton, either Creighton gets out the first round. They're looking to be a 3 seed. If they get out the first round, they'll be probably make it to the Elite 8. But if they'll probably be in a close one. Kind of remind me of how Xavier's game was last year. I know Xavier didn't make it. They made it to the Sweet 16. Of course, they lost to Texas. But how do you remember how Xavier's game was last year? I forgot who they played. But they were down by like 10 with like 8 minutes left. And then they made a great comeback. Close finish. All that. I could see Creighton having one of those games. I really could. But it's all a matter of if they're going to win it or not. Team you have to sleep, that might be slept on. Texas Tech is really good. They're a 7 seed playing Nevada. That's a really good matchup. And then Tennessee, led by Rick Barnes, and possibly the National Player of the Year of Dalton Connect. This team's really good. They have good shooting, good defensive strategies, but they sometimes get upsetted. And teams that could hit on runs at the right time are like, oh, that's not what you want. Tennessee has bad luck when it comes to they face the hot team at the time that no one wants to face, and you get stuck with them. And it's like, oh, dang, that was awful timing. Remember Carson Edwards and his run that they had? Remember who he had to play? Tennessee. Guess what he did to Tennessee? Put up like 40. But he had 3 games straight of putting up 40. He just got hot at the right time. They had to face Florida Atlantic last year. Guess what Florida Atlantic did? Made it to the Final Four. I already mentioned that earlier. They made it to the Final Four as like a 9 seed. They were not supposed to be able to do that. But they did. So Tennessee sometimes have bad luck of facing the hot team at the wrong time. So you got to watch out for that. But that's my look at the bracket right now. Whenever it officially comes out, we will make a full breakdown going through all the sides, everything, all the matchups, and deciding what's going to happen. Obviously, I can't watch. Obviously, I don't know all 68 teams. If you look at the others, like 4 in, like 8 in, 8 out, that's like 76 to 80 teams I'd have to look at. I don't have the time for that. But so that's why I pick and choose some teams I cover. But yeah, I will look over tape and all that to give analysis on a lot of these other teams. So yeah, I'll put the link of the Joe Lunardi's the article of that in the description. And yeah, put your own opinions what you're looking for with the NCAA tournament this year. And yeah, hope you have a great day. Stay safe, y'all. And God bless y'all.